We ready to go, guys? Edgar? All right. Multitasker. I like it. Okay. First of all, just kind of recap, some really good things that went on in that ball game. Anytime you can go on the road in this conference and come away with a win, there's obviously a lot that goes into it. And I tell you, the one thing I think we did this week that probably was not there last week was the effort and how hard we played, from snap to whistle. I thought was really good. And I think that had a lot to do with the approach of the focus we had on Monday and put a pretty darn good Tuesday and Wednesday together going into the game. I think our guys approached it as a business trip, which it was, and went about their business and did it right. Obviously a smothering defense for 3 quarters, which was great to see. And yet it was interesting because a couple unforced errors that we had in some offsides and a couple PIs might have had something to do with some things as you go back and look at what we did in practice during the week. We actually practiced a couple times being offsides, and we practiced a couple times grabbing onto a receiver, which are details that show up on Saturday. So those are things going into this week that we've got to understand. We've got to be right during the week in what we do in practice. And usually, as in all cases in life, it usually shows up during the event. And some of those showed up during this event. Now, with that being said, we did a great job of winning on first down. And that was outstanding. Offensively, to control the time of possession the way we did and limit the possessions there on the other side really helps you. The 3 and outs, obviously, that our defense put together, and then some of those long drives. We've got to learn from it was not a good 3-play series when we got the turnover right before half, and then obviously uncharacteristically just throwing the ball up for grabs and getting it picked. Something we've got to learn from. Coming away with points in the red area, we've got to get better at. So there'll be, again, it's something we work on every week. We've got to learn from our experiences and have a great week of practice as we go in against FAU, who, I think interesting enough, our guys understand the type of talent they have. There's 53 people intertwined in this game from both sides that went to the same schools. There's a ton to prove for guys, and they know how hard these guys will play. And, they've got some weapons. I think the thing that strikes you when you watch the film is the overall team speed that this team has. Obviously, you would think that based on, a lot of their guys being down from South Florida. And obviously the state of Florida, they've done a really good job of assembling really good team speed. They give us some things offensively. Their coordinator, actually an old Big Sky Conference guy from Montana State, and guy I've got a lot of respect for, done a heck of a job there, and is doing a great job here. We've got a quarterback that's got great size. I'm sure that they're looking at the Tennessee game and saying quarterback run, play action, because we still haven't stopped that. So we've got our work cut out for us there. Their group of tight ends are very impressive, the way that they use them to formation you and your ability to get you in and out of different personnel types with the same personnel on the field. I really like that. Their running backs obviously have legitimate Florida speed. And their experience lies up front in really the size and length of their offensive line. I think you guys will be impressed when they run out of the tunnel and take a look at what they've done recruiting-wise at that position. I think that's a credit, to the program there. When you look at them defensively, up front, they're inside guys, great speed, their sacks and tackle, and creating negative plays is done up front, which, as you know, we're still a work in progress on our front. So that's a matchup that they probably feel pretty darn good about. And they're young in the back end, but they can really run. And you see how hard, they compete in games. Got a lot of respect for them. And yet, guys, this will be an interesting week because we have so much work to do on who we are and the standard in which we choose to perform with. And, I think a couple years ago, I think it was Ulala came in here and we had to block a punt or something to seal the victory or get the victory, right? Well, that should prove something to everybody. And so it'll be interesting. This is a team of guys that are still discovering a lot about not only themselves, but about how you go about to continue being successful. And it's got to be a constant evaluation of the what and the understanding of the why. And, it's like the whole organization. Once you think you arrive and you just sit there and don't continually strive to get better and discover, that's when things kind of start to fall apart. And, we've got to do that not only as a football team, we've got to continue to do that as an organization and continually evaluate and understand we don't have all the answers and you can't just sit where you're at. You've got to constantly move forward. Again, a team in discovery, but I sure like where we're at. And we've got a few wins under our belt that mean absolutely nothing when you go into the next event. So I'm looking forward, I got to be honest with you, to the noon tilt. I kind of like that. When you get home at 7 o'clock after you do everything, those 3 to 4 hours that you have seem like 2 days. Man, it's awesome, And yet the noon tilt also, I'm going to challenge our fans who have made the swamp again. When you speak to anybody who's played here this year, the effect that those fans have had on the opposing team is incredible. The energy at Gator Walk, all the way through, kickoff. I'm going to encourage them to get up and get going early, and let's enjoy a great day in the swamp. Questions? Oh, sorry. Okay, so this week Alex McAllister will be out with a foot. Sherrod will be out with a string, and Joey Ivy will still be out. So what does that do? Well, you guys can read into it. Obviously, some of the guys that need to step up, who stepped up last game. Kerry Clark played a bunch more. Taven Bryant did a heck of a job in gap responsibility and integrity and trusting the guy next to him. Justice Reed did a heck of a job coming in. In fact, I think made a play on the very first play he was in. Those are all good. And so, although how good these guys are, not to downplay their effect on a game, the flip side of that is somebody will show up and somebody will play, and they will do it at a high level with the responsibility and the attention to detail it takes to be successful. So we hope to get them back. Don't ask me how long. I don't know. Call Marcus Welby. He may know. Okay, but we'll keep you updated on these as we go. All right? Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, by my count, you played 49 guys last week. Is that a combination of being banged up and that you were able to control the ball, or is it just because you've got so many guys banged up? 49 seems like an awful low number.
Yeah, that was something, and really the number of plays as you kind of get into this. Part of it, there may be some guys that have been dinged up, and we're probably looking at redshirting, as well. But at the same time, you know, on the travel roster itself, we only actually took, I think, 66 in this one, you know, that were kind of able and ready to roll. We had some other guys kind of nicked up, especially in some special team spots that didn't travel that should be back this week and ready to go. So that is a low number, and yet the distribution of the reps, I think, was pretty good. You know, nobody played that really high number, if that makes sense.
I'm sure you're running out of superlatives for the defense, but how high a level is it playing at? I know they had a couple slip-ups the other day, but and what is kind of, do you think, the foundation of the success of this defense
Yeah, I
this year?
think that that's actually a pretty, you know, and it's as good as they're playing, the recipe is very simple. They trust each other, and they aren't trying to do too much. And they know if they do their job within the framework of what we're asking them to do, that's when your turnovers and plays are going to happen. Sometimes what happens to you get a bunch of talented guys, and then they start going off on their own trying to, you know, hey, this is me, everybody take notice. That's when things show up. That playing team, and I emphasize the word team, defense, is really something that's awesome to see. And you guys have seen and been able to appreciate how these guys are swarming to the ball, how they're, this was interesting. This week we had production a little bit more from the D-line. Well, the reason is I think these guys that we just played were tired of seeing the two linebackers make all these plays. So they single blocked a lot of our down line and went to second level and got, which simply means the double teams. Now the play of the D-line holding their gap, being gap sound in everything that they're doing, really, it was unbelievable, man. It was great to see. The communication that's going on in the back end. And we lost our eyes a couple times. We had some undisciplined play, you know, there on a couple plays late in the game. But when you look at, 3 quarters and they had 50 yards or something like that, so, I mean, that's unheard of. And yet, let's not discount how that happened. Offensively, we had the ball. Our defense was on the bench. That helps a good defense. We're forcing teams to go long field, other than the one sack fumble kind of deal, which, gosh darn, we had a guy screaming wide open. That thing would have, D-Rob would still be running. But that was the only short field they had, and they went 3 and out right there. We forced teams to go long field, and when you just look statistically and percentage-wise, different areas of drive start and the point production therein, depending on where you start, it's pretty fascinating to see. And, you know, our cover units are doing a great job in special teams too, and that's all part of it.
You know, one other thing, I think someone told me about it. I didn't see it, but after Tabor's interception, runs off the field, Jeff Collins hands him a magic marker or a Sharpie, and he goes and writes something down on a grease board or something. What's
It's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, what's that, and what kind of motivational kind
It's
of
just one of
deal is
those
that?
things we do.
What was it?
It's pretty cool.
Well, what is it?
It's pretty cool.
Coach, how is Cronkrite? You mentioned that he hurt his foot at the end of the game on Saturday. Is he okay? Or
Yeah, I don't think I mentioned him. He should be able to go. It's really up to him, though, you know. So it is pretty cool, though.
and Treon, where do you see him making progress from week to week, Treon?
Well, you know, I thought our efficiency in throwing the football was a little bit better. He's obviously got a couple he'd want back and missed a couple. There was, you know, one early where you go action, reaction, action to check down, and he got off the action a little soon and threw a corner route to D-Rob that he let the corner bait him, which that's why you go action to reaction back to action in that particular scheme. And so there's things I think he's seeing. I think he moved up in the pocket much better in this game rather than just try to bail out one way or the other. So I think his pocket awareness, shuffling and finding throwing angles was a little better.
It seemed like you guys had a lot of run plays that were maybe one block away from springing a big one.
Yeah, I know, man.
Do you look at that and show them on tape? Because when you do get it right, the 53-yard run for Taylor is obviously there.
Yeah, we actually show them film. Yeah. I don't know, novel idea, I guess. But, yeah, it's what it goes to prove is what I try to explain. We all want to sensationalize the guy who gets his picture in the paper, the name on the play. But in order for you to be successful, and it doesn't matter what you're in, doesn't matter what profession you're in, the people around you, it takes other 10 guys doing what they do at a high level, straining to make it happen. And yeah, we were just on the edge. We were a little late getting off the ball a couple times. The amazing thing is when you show the guy doing it correctly, so you know he can, all right? But now there comes a little bit of this, I'm going to do it on this event, not pick your spots. And, we are. You can see it. We're right there. So, but that's why we practice. That's why we actually point it out on film. And we actually show, probably the biggest thing we do is show the actions or the behavior that once you do that, there's success. Which, yeah, I can do it. And you know what? At the end of the day, it's okay to do it at a high level. That's something that gets lost sometimes.
Nico, straight in the back.
Coach, with 10 games under your belt, what are some areas from an intangible standpoint that you've seen your team improve the most, whether it's responsibility or punctuality?
No, that's a good question. I think there's a lot. And to point at any just one, it's hard. But I think, first of all, the commitment they've made not only to themselves but to each other. And understanding that to win, to be successful, it's not just about one guy, being selfish. And I see guys really understanding that, the whole team's responsible for our success. And that's great to see. And what I also see is understanding that everybody in that locker room is responsible for who they are and what they're all about, and how they go about affecting someone one way or another. And there's guys who have made themselves relevant because of their actions and how they go about their business. And there's also guys who have become irrelevant, and the team has moved on until that behavior changed. And that's pretty cool to see now. And I'm just proud as heck of them.
And then speaking of pretty cool things, I don't know if you talked about this, but the concept of third down, money down, who came up with that, and what's the philosophy behind that?
That's pretty neat, isn't it? Next.
Jim, Kelvin Taylor visited Alabama during your final year there. What do you remember about him as a recruit?
Well,
What'd you
the
think
guy's
of
a
him?
great player and obviously put up really good numbers. Has great bloodlines. And the way I like now that, I'm actually being able to see how he plays is how hard he goes about his business. And it's a lot of fun to watch. And he continues to strive to get better. He's a guy that actually does a great job of the self-evaluation. Here's what's hard for guys. You hear us talk about being proud of what you put on film. But also you've got to be honest with yourself about your resume, which is your film. And so now how do I correct it? Kelvin's a guy that truly dives into that piece and sometimes is more critical on himself than should be, but he's always self-evaluating. And really good players are honest with themselves, and he's done a good job of
You
that.
talk about self-evaluation. He said going into the year he was not happy with how his career had gone up to that point. Coming here with the expectations that he had and the legacy, he's closing in on 1,000 yards. You guys are going to the SEC championship. How much do you feel like this season has meant to him personally?
Well, there's the interesting thing. I think you hit it. People's expectations, how do you fulfill an expectation? Well, it's a mindset, and you can't get frustrated. And sometimes you got to put yourself out there, and you're going to fail, right? The problem a lot of times is this. People won't put everything they have into it because when they fail, they don't have an excuse. Think about what I just said right there. When people hold back and then they fail, oh, well, I could have done that, but. So there's the excuse, the built-in excuse. And yet every day we must go out and try. And sometimes you fail, but you learn from that. It goes back to self-evaluation. He's done an outstanding job of that.
Jesse, over to the left.
Goolsby had another big catch on Saturday. Is he the guy you guys would like to get involved a little more?
I think here's a great thing in Gould's case. He has probably learned over the last 4 weeks the importance of what you do in practice helps you in the game. And it's been great to see because he's had a couple really great weeks of practice. Effort, attention to detail, speed at which he's trying to do it, finish. He can answer, how much he kind of just walked through stuff before, and the behavior in which you practice and how you practice usually shows up on Saturday in your production. And he's a case that I've been really proud at how hard he's put into the practice part the last couple weeks. And with that being said, it shows up in the game. And I'm glad you've seen that because he has really practiced really well about the last 3 weeks.
Would y'all like to try to get him the ball a little more, though? I mean, he's an explosive playmaker.
If he's open.
Matt, over here to the right, and Cassie back, Matt.
Hey Jim, in your introduction, you talked a lot about discovery. You said you guys are still discovering a lot about yourselves. You said you're a team of discovery. So what else do you have to discover?
It's every single day. You never arrive. That's the thing that as soon as you think you arrive, there's someone out there to beat your tail. The discovery is every single day. And it doesn't go for football. This goes in anything, any organization, whatever you do. You constantly have to discover to reach a new elevation. And so many times what happens is you become comfortable, and which is okay. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's not how you're going to be if you really want to be successful. And it's not just football. That's the thing I think we always just want to make it about this. But these are lessons that help you in life. These are lessons that help businesses, successful organizations that don't just sit on what they've done, but they're constantly reinventing, constantly discovering ways to be successful. And our guys they find something new every single day, and that's what's really cool about it.
Couple final questions, Cassie in the back.
Hey, Mac. Obviously, McAllister's out for this week, but it's been huge this year, leads in sacks. How much of his play this year has been learned technique, and how much is just like a tenaciousness?
You're talking about Alex, right?
Yes.
I would say the whole defensive line, one of the things they've learned is the understanding of their responsibility, do it at a high level, because then somebody else might make a play. But here's the amazing thing. When they all do their play together, usually then your technique overtakes and allows you to make those plays. And what he's done is a great job of understanding if he's supposed to come under at a certain place, it frees up the guy behind him, right, or on the outside. Likewise, when somebody's doing their job, that puts him in a one-on-one situation, which he's done a great job of using his length and his technique. He understands now the importance of the technique to allow you to be effective in your job. And I look at it as this, you know, every day we should strive to perfect our craft, yet we never will perfect anything. That's the hard thing, because once you think you've perfected it, you quit getting any better. And he's actually really invested. And it's hard to see him on crutches, but you know what? Somebody will step in and play. We're not going to go on the field with 10 people. Last question. Yeah, Edgar.
More than one player talked about every game being a playoff from here on. I'm assuming they're hearing that from somewhere. Are you driving a message home like
Well,
that to them?
you know, we've always talked. This is the biggest game of the year. Why is it, Edgar? Why is it the biggest game? That's exactly right. So if you have figured that out yet, then they get it. That's cool to hear. So every time we have an opportunity, because we only have so many, go out and make the best of it and never look past an opportunity. And they've done that.
I mean the playoff word, though. They're not even saying game, but they're saying it's a playoff.
Well, I think every time you go out is a one-time event, right? So to me, they're getting it. So that's a good thing.
And last thing, did you, is Antonio Callaway, was he targeted more the other day? Was that intentional or just opportunities kind of showing up?
Take what the defense gives you, and eventually they give you the game. Thanks.